Okay. I guess we've had some stuff go on here in the last week, which has been pretty exciting since the last we spoke. First of which, we had our coaches clinic last Friday, Saturday, and it was an awesome turnout. We had a bunch of high school coaches, almost 300 high school coaches here. Thought our coaches did a great job. We had a couple great guest speakers. That Sean McVay was phenomenal with his presentation. I thought it was great for our staff and really good for the guest coaches. So we were fortunate to have him in. Put the pads on for the first time Saturday. Had a really kind of physical practice and, again, finding out about guys as they go and what it looks like. And then had the pretty quick turnaround of coming back here Monday morning and practicing again. And I think one of the challenges as you grow throughout spring ball is really trying to maximize every one of these 15 opportunities that we get. And so that was something that we had talked about with the team post-practice today, right? That we use an analogy. You can be a thermostat or you can be a thermometer. And thermostats, they set the temperature, right? They bring the energy, they set the temperature. Thermometers, they just react to what is set. And so we need more guys that take the field with real intent. We need more guys that take the field with great energy, so that the other players that may not know quite yet can fall in line with what that looks like. And so I thought it was a good lesson for us today. Still got a lot of really good work done, but we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to find areas of improvement and what that can look like. So on that front, that was Monday. I think just as a team health-wise, we're still really healthy, which has been good through 4 practices. But like I said, we need to maximize this Wednesday and Friday practice this week with real intent, and then knowing we're off Saturday, Sunday, and essentially Monday we're not back on the grass again until Tuesday. So these are a couple big practices for us coming up here the second half of this week.
Any specific, veterans kind of step up to that thermostat role you're talking about?
Yeah, no, I think naturally. I mean, I thought Alfred Collins looked really good today. Was very intentional with his approach. Barron Sorrell, Ethan Burke always bring it that way. But I think a couple new faces. I think Trey Moore brings it. That guy, he's wired right up front. I thought, Cedric Baxter and Jaden Blue again just kind of continue to assert themselves, and I'd be remiss if I didn't reference Trey Wisner. He's had a good, really good 4 days for us to start this thing off. So again, it's hard to pinpoint everybody, but there's been some guys that have brought it for 4 straight days, and it's been impressive. And so hopefully, that everybody can kind of fall in line with that so that they know what it looks like.
Steve, can you expound on Trey Moore a little bit? Obviously a new guy trying to find his way in a position of need. Just what does he look like here?
Yeah, what I like about Trey is, I think, first of all, is his work ethic. You can tell a guy who comes into the program and has a chip on his shoulder. Trey has got something to prove. And I think there's some value to that in the portal when you can recruit a guy that maybe is not coming from an SEC school or a Big Ten school, and now they get here, they got something to prove. And he's a really talented player, and we saw that firsthand. We played against him. But the way he worked all winter conditioning, and now the way he practices with real intent. He's a extremely effective pass rusher. He's really good, kind of his awareness of the game of football and the things that we're doing beyond just rushing the passer. And then he has a sense of physicality in the way that he plays. But I think it starts with his approach. I mean, he maximizes every day. I mean, he tries to squeeze every drop out of the day, and it shows in the way that he works in practice.
Steve, 2-part question just about the running backs. First off, from a depth perspective, how do you kind of measure this group in comparison to maybe previous springs? And the second part of that question, with a guy like CJ, what do you look for as a coach in terms of development from that freshman year to sophomore year? And have you kind of seen it?
Well, I think depth-wise, if you went to, call it 2 years ago, when we had Bijan, Roshan, we had Jonathan Brooks, Jaden Blue had already enrolled in school. That was a really deep group of guys, and with some experience, right? Last year was a little bit different in that, with Bijan and Rowe being gone, and Jonathan, and then having Blue back, and then what it looked like with Keelan, and then here comes Ced Baxter as a young player, and Trey Wisner. It's just kind of evolving, right? As some guys move on, the next kind of guys step up and step into that role. We've got great depth right now at runner. They're healthy. They look good. Obviously with what CJ and Blue are doing, with what Trey's doing, the influx of the two young players in Jarek and Christian, and then Savion and what he's doing. So we're fortunate that way. But man, it always feels good until all of a sudden a couple of them go down, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we don't have any. And so we're fortunate that way, and obviously Coach Choice does a great job of coaching those guys and coaching them hard, and we try to give them a lot of reps. I think for CJ, obviously a very gifted player. He's got the size, the speed. He's got great hands out of the backfield. The evolution for the runner is really two things: is one, playing to your strengths, and the size and speed that CJ has. I think his understanding and his ability to consistently run kind of violent is a strength of his. And when he does, he is tough to get on the ground, and we've seen that firsthand. And then two, naturally, is the runner as you grow. Especially in our system, is in your pass protection stuff. And it's one thing to know what to do, it's another to know how to do it, and it's a third thing to apply it all in the moment. And so his growth there, we've seen it, but we're always striving for more on that front. But just who he is on a daily basis and what he brings, I think it's been fun to watch those guys mature. Jaden Blue, CJ Baxter, Trey Wisner, they have really matured, and they've grown into a leadership role quickly. And proud of them that way. And that's because they paid attention when they were younger. Blue had a chance to be behind Jonathan Brooks, Bijan Robinson, and Roshan Johnson. That made sense to him, and he's grown up. CJ got a chance to be with Jonathan Brooks, Keelan Robinson a year ago, allowed him to see what it looks like to grow up. And so, we ask a lot of those guys that way as well.
Where's Cam Williams at in his development? It looks like he's kind of redistributed some of the weight that he brought.
Yeah, I think Cam's done a great job. His weight has really come down. I referenced it to him today on the field. He's moving really well. And that's always the challenge, right? We want big humans, but we want them to be able to move. And so I think Cam has really matured that way, and like the value of keeping his weight manageable to where he can play to the best of his ability. I think it was good for him a year ago to get that start and to play an entire game and what that felt like from a conditioning standpoint. And so now in spring practice, what it feels like, getting the extensive reps that way and getting himself into football shape, because, we can train him all winter long and they can be in great shape. And then when football comes, that's a different shape that you have to get your mind and your body into. And I think he's improving on that, but I think there's still room to grow.
Coach, with the idea of momentum, you've talked about being obsessed with kind of taking that next step before. Is there anything you can sense from the guys as far as similar hunger after the way things kind of carried into success last season?
Yeah, I think we have a very hungry football team. These guys are highly, highly competitive. Our practices are extremely competitive right now. And, the one thing, we had a moment in practice on Saturday. We were doing a special teams competition drill, and a young player made a mistake, kind of a let's call it, potentially could have hurt another player by the way, the technique that he used. And before myself or Coach Banks could even say anything to him, man, it was like a flock of wolves that just kind of, that's not how you do it. And so as highly competitive as we are in our intent and the way we're practicing with the intensity, they've learned now how to do it. And I think that's the beauty of it, that they're coaching one another. And that's the leadership that I was talking about at the first press conference, in that we don't, there's not everybody looking around for one or two voices to say something to a guy when he's not right. We've got a multitude of guys doing that, and I think that there's a real positive to that for us, because that's the conversation in the locker room, right? That's the conversation when they're back at their apartments or dorms when we're not there. I think it's on their mind, and I think that's a good thing, right? That us being the best football team we can be is on their mind, and what they need to do to make that happen is on their mind. And so, again, we're 4 practices in, got a ton to work on, but I think we're making the right strides and we're going in the right direction that way.
Steve, can you talk about the evolution for Anthony Hill and like
Yeah.
where you want to see him go. Is he a candidate for middle? Is he best?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. You know, I think the one thing that Anthony provides is versatility. You know, even as a true freshman, we probably, you know, we moved him around a fair amount last year, you know, with what he was doing at off the ball linebacker, what he was doing coming off the edge rushing, what he was able to do for us on special teams. But he's wired right for sure. He's the greatest kid in the world off the field. I mean, he's a good student. I can talk to him. He can relay messages. He's a really good leader. When he gets between the white lines, I mean, he's tough. I mean, he plays hard. He takes it. He plays, as I always say, through the echo of the whistle, and that's what you want out of a linebacker, right? You want him with that edge, and so. You know, I do value that from him, and I think that that's going to serve us well as a guy who's going to be one of the leaders of our defense, that's his style of play. Where he actually finds his home, we'll see. I just know that he can do multiple things, and so I'd hate to pigeonhole him into one thing. It's probably safe to say if we were playing tomorrow, he would play middle linebacker for us, but you know, we're not playing tomorrow. And so we're going to try to put the best 11 guys out there and making sure that we're putting him in position to make the plays that he can make. You know, he is definitely an impactful player that way.
Coach, who are some of the guys that would be classified as backups? I know you don't do
We're
a whole
not.
bunch. Yeah,
I'm trying to be rude about it, but we're not there to say who's a backup.
That's why I
who's
said
not.
put it in
Okay.
air quotes.
Yeah.
That when you guys look at the film, they really pop off to you that are pushing a lot of the guys that are ahead of them.
You know, again, that's why, like, I'm not. I tell the guys, you know, we're two spotting everything right now. So we've got two fields going when we go to team, and we're rotating guys from one field to the next. Some of it is intentional. Hey, today you're going to be here. Tomorrow you're going to be there. For some guys, they had a really good practice. We moved them up. We want to see what they look like against maybe a little bit better competition. But I'm not prepared to say a guy is a backup right now. I mean, like I said, you know, that probably wouldn't be fair to the guys on our team. They're all competing and they're working at a really high level. And it's been impressive. And I think when we can recognize it and when we can reward really good play, really good intent, really good effort, that should motivate the other guys to want to try to do those things as well.
So those are guys who maybe have been popped on film that you know, maybe unexpected, but you guys have been pleasantly surprised with?
You know, the guy who I just talked to after practice, I love the way he's practicing right now, is Andrew Makuba. I think he's you feel his experience as a player. You feel him having the ability to play multiple positions. And I love the intent that which he practices with. You know, he's aggressive, he's tough, but yet he knows how to practice. He doesn't go to the ground. He knows how to do those things, and I hope he serves as a really good benchmark for some of the other guys on how to do it. I think he's definitely shown up that way and been impressed with that. You know, I think naturally offensively, I mean, one guy that to me, like Juan Davis, has been kind of a pleasant surprise. You know, this has definitely been his best spring so far since we've been here. I'm proud of him and the work that he's putting in. And outside of that, really, they're all working.
Coach, we saw Malik Muhammad walk off the field today. Can you update us on what's lingering him? And
Yeah,
what your
precautionary.
comfortability-
He'll be back out probably Wednesday or Friday.
And how do you feel about depth at the cornerback spot at the moment?
I feel pretty good. You know, we're like I said, we have some pretty good versatility in the back end. You know, I know we probably label like Jade and Jalen Gilbo and Jordan Austin as stars, but we're rolling those guys at multiple positions. We're rolling safeties at stars. And so we've got really good depth. You know, obviously with Brooks and Gavin Holmes, you know, kind of coming back with Manny has been helpful. But there's an influx of some young players that are getting some good opportunities right now and seeing some growth in them and what they can be with Wardell Max or, you know, Kobe Blacks, those guys. So I feel really good about the depth. We're gonna have to harness it a little bit here at some point down in August of, okay, what's this rotation going to look like when we get there? But for right now, they're all playing. They're all looking pretty good.
Coach, you mentioned that
Just your thoughts on Trey Owens and just how he's adapted to the newness and being in a room where you have a couple of really high profile.
Yeah, Trey's a natural passer, and it definitely shows in practice. He has the ability to pass the football. He can make all the throws. There's a lot coming at him right now. 4 practices in, you have all of the offense we've put in. You have all the defense is put in, and trying to put those two things together sometimes gets him. But man, you see plays out of him where he's definitely got a chance. You know, he does not get rattled that way. If anything, he gets a little hard on himself, and I'm trying to not get high. I said, my job's to get hard on you. Your job's to keep pumping yourself up. He's done a nice job through the first 4 days. He had a really good off season of kind of changing his body, and I think that, again, the future's bright for him.
Coach, you talked about your kind of team hunger. You guys have that SEC patch out there now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much motivation is that for you guys as coaches? Do the players, are they kind of aware of that? Any extra juice at all?
We haven't talked about it one time.
Okay.
You know, our motivation should come internally, you know, and we've been that way for quite some time. We try not to get motivated by external factors, because I think that's when you take those dips in performance based. You try to look across the field, and now I'm supposed to play a certain way because that's who's over there. We want to set the standard for the way we play. Quite frankly, we want to be the thermostat, right? And we want to set our temperature. We want to play a certain way into that standard, and that's what we coach to. That's what we play to. I think naturally, as we get a little closer to the season, right, we'll start to navigate the schedule and look at it and what is it going to take and prepping for opponents. But right now, we're trying to set a really good foundation for this team on the way we want to play this fall.
I think this time last year you went on Ryan Clark's podcast and said, like, this team looks like my team. Is it still that way? Is it a little bit different? Like, is it still something you would describe as looking like your team?
Yeah, I think we have a great looking team. I think we have really good length, even at our skill position spots. We got good length. We got good speed. I think we have good size internally. I think we've got quarterbacks that can make the throws necessary. I think we got versatile players at positions where you need versatility, whether it's tight end, linebacker, safety, star. The runners are all versatile players. They can catch, they can run with speed, they can run with power. And so I think it's been very intentional now going into year 4 of the what we're looking for specifically at position groups, how we tried to build this team. And I think it's coming to fruition. Every year you look a little bit different here or there, right? But for the most part, when we come out and I look at our team warm up and I watch us stretch and I watch some of the individual drills when I'm not with the quarterbacks, and we're a good looking team, but we need to play good, right? That's always the challenge. But to your point, I do. It looks like a team that I recruited, and not only physically, but I think the mental makeup as well.
You mentioned Trey Moore and Makuba. Do you feel like the transfers are starting to find their voice now in this new environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always natural, and that's one of the challenges recruiting in the portal is that, you spend 2 or 3 years recruiting these high school kids. You might spend 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 weeks recruiting these portal kids, right? And so trying to find their personality in that recruiting process is important, but a lot of figuring out their personality comes in winter, right, when they're here, and getting to know them and what fuels their fire, what makes them tick, what makes them go. And when we can find it and then we can tap into it, then we can start to bring it out of them. And so it's been interesting to watch the evolution of some of the guys whose voices are starting to pop a little quicker, guys that I'm starting to forge better relationships with. Like the 3 guys on offense, to me, that I'm excited as they continue to grow. Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, and Amari Nyblack. Like all 3 of those guys, I think are going to be fantastic players for us. Their transition may not have been as quick as a Trey Moore or an Andrew Makuba, but I'm starting to see it more and more, and I'm starting to feel their personality a little bit more in the way that they play, and their ability to recognize when a young guy needs help or a young guy's not right on something, that they have enough confidence now to step in and to help the situation.
Coach, Quinn, how's he looking? Obviously in year 3, how comfortable is he? And since we're contractually obligated, Arch, how's he been coming along as well?
Both guys are doing really well. You know, I think you can feel, to your point, you can feel Quinn, year 3 Quinn. You can feel year 2 Arch, right? Of just kind of the operation of it, the anxiety lessons kind of year to year, right? Of what are we doing next? What does this feel like? What does this look like? I think naturally this year, probably as much or more than ever, for both guys, their command is going to be really important. It's not just what they know. It's not just their ability to function. It's making sure the guys around them are in the right frame of mind and have the right knowledge to perform with them. Because you can't rely on the experience of some of the guys that we had a year ago. And so that's the challenge, right? How far can we push a Jonte Cook, a DeAndre Moore, all these new faces, a Ryan Niblets, and the new faces to be elite players? And because the better they are around the quarterback, the better the quarterback is, right? And so how can the quarterback help those guys, play to the best of their abilities? And so I think that's the challenge for Quinn and Arch of what does that look like? How do I make sure those guys are on point to do what they need to do to play to the best of their ability? But they're both doing a really nice job. They're both in a phase that you could see in their progression kind of systematically, but also maturity of just players that have been in the program.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Appreciate it.